Welcome back, boys and girls. Thank you for watching that movie with intent and noticing the things that Hip Hughes was saying and trying to follow along with him, even though he is saying so many things. Thank you for following along. You had this out, your chart. You might have jotted a few things down. Not sure, but either way, we're going to add to the chart now. So please have the chart out if you don't already and something to write with so you can take some notes. By this time, we are on our third monotheistic religion. We've talked about Judaism, we've talked about Christianity, we've talked about Islam now. And so you're starting to see some patterns and similarities. Of course, there are differences because then they wouldn't be different religions. That we can count on. But what is interesting is the similarities between these religions. Okay, so let's go ahead and just start filling out our chart based upon what we know um, with the movie that we just saw. And, we have our book too. We have chapter 5 book. And so there's this section of Islam in our chapter 5 book. So that's a great resource and what you will use when you are done today and you are filling in your reading guide, which is part of your packet. So, okay, it says the beliefs. So first of all, we're talking about Islam right here. And we should know, and I think we've kind of said this already, I can't remember, that it is the second largest religion with the amount of followers, with 1 billion followers. So if you can add this into your chart, you can abbreviate second biggest, second big, something like that, 1 billion. And there are 60% of the people who practice Islam are in Asia, 20% in the Middle East and Africa, North Africa. And then you're going to say, well, that's only 80%. The rest are sprinkled throughout the world, including North America and the United States. So jot that down. You can use shorthand, but just make sure it's something that you can remember when you go back to study. Okay, the next part is one of the things to know with Islam is that the word Islam means submission, and your submission is to God. Okay, submission to Allah. Why Allah? That is their name for God. So Christians say God, Jews say Yahweh, and Islam say Allah. So that is just the word that they use. So make sure you have that down. I know that's confusing for some students. And remember, all three religions believe in the same God, and we're going to talk in a minute, in the same origin story as well with Abraham. But then there are divisions from there. And a person who practices Islam is a Muslim. So that is good to know too. Those words get kind of tricky and it gets confusing. Islam, Muslim, what does that all mean? So Muslim is just a person who practices the Islamic religion. So make sure you have that down. Muslim, Muslim. If you need a pause, you know what to do. Okay, we already said this, but I want to reiterate it. It's important to know these things, that Islam is a monotheistic religion. That means they believe in one God. The same God, I'm going to say it again just for clarification, that the Jews believe in and the Christians believe in. Monotheism. But they call their God a different name. They call him Allah. Allah. So jot that down. Now it becomes less of a mystery when somebody says that word Allah. Oh, okay. That means God. So then we're into this next column. We're going on, we're trying to learn a little bit more. The inception and the beginning of the religions is only important to help us understand the similarities and differences between the religions. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that right now. So first of all, you should know that Islam is the newest religion, if you will. It came 600 years after Christianity. So we're going to just note that. That's kind of interesting. It is the newest of the monotheistics, and it is 600 years after Christianity. I'll try and make that a little bit bigger. One more. Yeah, there we go. So, I got now the seeds cut off, but you get the idea. So 600 years after Christianity, it is the newest monotheistic. For example, if you want to abbreviate monotheistic as mono, and then you just remember and know, that certainly works. Okay, the founder is a man named Muhammad. Okay, but this gets maybe a tiny bit confusing. I don't know. Muhammad is the man who gets a message, who is spoken to by the angel Gabriel, and that starts Islam. But the people, the Muslims, believe that the God was there's a God before that. It's just that Islam starts with Muhammad when Muhammad gets messages from the angel Gabriel. But before that, they believe that Abraham got the message from God, just like Jews and Christians believe. And then Jews believe that the that Abraham had two sons, and one son is what's his name? Sorry, I couldn't think of his name. The first son that we are going to talk about is Isaac. And Isaac is the son that follows the path for Jews. Abraham had another son, Ishmael. Ishmael is the son that follows the path for Muslims, for Islam. They branch off. The one son, Isaac, is more accepted by his father, Abraham, and stays in Canaan for the Jews. The other son, Ishmael, is banished by his father Abraham and goes into the Middle East and eventually Mecca. And that is where things divide between Jews and Christians and Muslims. That those two people go in different directions and they have different beliefs from there. But the fact that God comes down, speaks to Abraham, gives Abraham information to believe in one God, tells Abraham to go to Canaan, is all the same. The two sons is where the things diverge. That seems like a lot of information, but I think it's important to note that things are similar in the beginning, and then with Isaac and Ishmael, things divide. Okay, so we talked about what happens to Muhammad that makes him special or the founder. Well, a pretty big deal in Islam is that he is visited by the angel Gabriel in 610 CE, Common Era, 610 CE. The angel Gabriel comes and says, I have some information from God. So that's obviously a really big deal. And in this time period, when Muhammad is living in Mecca in this area, most people were polytheistic. There was not a lot of morality going on or reasons to do the right thing. There was no afterlife idea. It was kind of do what you want, get what you need, and then it was kind of look out for yourself. And Muhammad comes with this new idea from Angel Gabriel saying, wait a minute, there's just one God, and there are better ways to live and to treat people. So you can imagine that message must have been kind of confusing for people and hard to accept. You want me to start thinking about other people and this one God and paying service to him? So there was definitely a transition there. And Muhammad had trouble converting people in the beginning, but his first convert was his wife. Just a little tidbit. Maybe you don't just jot that down. First convert is his wife. So he must have converted her, and then she is also part of the story. Okay, thinking about their text, we know that Jews have the Torah and Christians have the Bible. We also know that the Christian Bible has the Old Testament, which is the I just said it, Torah. My goodness. So they overlap, right? Okay. So the Quran is also part of that. It has they have their own book, and it's called the Quran, and that is the stuff that Muhammad gets from Angel Gabriel. Muhammad scribes it down. It is considered to be the direct word of God because it comes from Angel Gabriel, which is message from God, then to Muhammad. Muhammad writes it down. Muhammad is not claiming it to be his own. He is saying, this is what I got from God. I'm just putting it down. So get that down. Quran, right here. Quran. And where do Muslims practice their religion? Their specific building is called a mosque. Mosque. A mosque. Give you a second to get that down. Okay. And we're going to keep on going here. Imam is a name of a person who would be a religious leader. IMAM. And then it asks for the branches. So Muhammad goes through his life and he works to convert people, and he does. We're not going to get into the specifics. He moves away to a different city, comes back to Mecca. But eventually the story goes he dies. And when he dies, he leaves no specific leader. He doesn't say so and so is taking over for me. This will be the next new leader. He doesn't do that. So the short story is that there are two different people that are kind of in the running to be the next leader. One guy's name is Ali and one guy's name is Abu Bakr. And so this is where the two branches come into play. They cannot decide on who should be the next leader. And so they simply take the two leaders and they branch off and they become different branches within Islam. And that's not uncommon, right? We've seen that with other religions. Every column has a different branches column because religions, we see that they don't always agree on exactly every little detail. They believe in the overall concept and the overall ideas. They all believe in Muhammad. What they didn't believe in at that point was the different leaders after that. And on from there, there's different things which we don't need to get into for this overview class. But Sunni and Shia are the two different branches based upon the two different possible leaders, Ali and Abu Bakr, which you don't need to know the specifics either, just noting that there were two different guys. Okay, then probably the next most important thing, or maybe the most important thing out of all this, is what the heck do they believe? And we know that we heard Hip Hughes go through this too. They have something called the 5 pillars. It's kind of like a breakdown, maybe an easier way to remember things. So in the 5 pillars, so write down 5 pillars, please. We should have that down. Okay, so the 5 pillars is just 5 things that all Muslims are supposed to do to be good Muslims. Now, let's take a break from that idea for a minute in speaking about Islam. We kind of touch on this, Mrs. Berry and I, in general, but with all the religions, I don't care if it's polytheistic, monotheistic, we know that people follow it with different strength maybe, or different ways. So you might know somebody that's really, really particular about keeping the Sabbath holy and not doing anything and making sure they go to church on Sunday and they do nothing else if they're a Christian. Maybe you know a Jew who really takes part in the holy day for them on Friday night and they don't do anything until Saturday, until after Saturday. Maybe that's important. That maybe you know Christians and Jews who don't abide by that at all. So the point is there are varying levels of, I don't want to say really dedication because people see it in different ways, but the way they practice. Different Christians, Jews, Muslims participate in the religion in different frequencies, in different ways, in different amounts. So that's true about everything that we know. Some people think some things are important, some people think they're not. So just because a person doesn't do one of the things that we're talking about in these lessons doesn't mean they're not a Christian, a Jew, or a Muslim. It just means they practice differently, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Sorry for that roundabout way. But I think it's important to note that just because a person might not do all of these doesn't mean that they're not participating in the religion. Okay, so the first one here is, let me just glue it up here for you. Let me glue it up. Okay, Shahada is, I shouldn't say simply, but is the declaration of faith that there is one God, Allah, and I believe in Him. We notice that Jews and Christians also make a declaration of their faith. Without that, what would there be? It's almost like it goes without saying. If you're not going to proclaim the God that you believe in, what's the point of having the religion, right? So definitely important for that. So write this down, I'll spell it for you. Capital S H A H A D A H. That is a declaration of faith. There is one God, Allah. Okay, the next one is, let me glue this one up for you, please. I hope this worked better than me trying to write because you notice that my handwriting is not always the best. All right, Salah is simply ritual prayer 5 times a day. I keep saying simply like it's easy to do. I don't know why I'm saying that. Salah is ritual prayer 5 times a day facing towards Mecca. So that is their way of showing God their faith and saying that we are proclaiming to you. That is spelled S-A-L-A-T. Really, that's a word that's interesting to know, but if you specifically know, it's the ritual prayer 5 times a day. That's what we want to know. Then we have Zakat. I'm going to make this glow up too. And here we go. And that is to give to charity. So we know that other religions have that too in different ways. Maybe it's a percentage, maybe it's time. So there is this idea of giving back. And that's spelled Zakat, and that is to give to charity. And you heard that in Hip Hughes. Pretty cool that people that they're in built in the religions, I guess it maybe makes sense that our job is to give to others in some way, shape, or form. Okay, making the next one. All right, Psalm is fasting during Ramadan. All of the religions so far have some component of fasting. Fasting is supposed to be able to help us focus more, get more in tune to what we're doing with God, what we need to do, what we're not doing, and to really focus in. And Ramadan I put down here, so we'll talk about that in a second. But it is their holy time, when it's a time of reflection and thinking and reverence. Very, very special time. And the last of the 5 pillars is the trip to Mecca. Switch that over. Okay, so Hajj is the pilgrimage to Mecca. You are supposed to go there if you are a capable traveler, if you are well enough physically, mentally, and financially enough, you are supposed to go to Mecca for that holy trip. And then I had Ramadan in this section too, simply because it is their biggest holiday. And they don't have as many as some of the other religions, but this is very important time. It just got over recently, so oopsie. Ramadan it follows the lunar calendar, so it moves each year. So you'll maybe hear people talking about it or noticing, well, it seems like it started earlier this year or later. That's because it follows the lunar calendar, and it is a time when really Muslims put most things aside. They even try to. Sometimes they've shut down work or they don't do vacations then. They are focused in on their religion and what they can do better and improving. The fasting part takes place from sunup to sundown, so they may eat a meal before sunup and then a meal after sundown, but during the day when the sun is up, they do not eat. It's a fasting period. And we talk about that with Psalm right there. Okay, so I hope you got all that. Oopsie daisy. And then on to symbols and images, it's not exactly the same as Christianity and Judaism, but they do have this symbol that is often associated with Islam, the moon and the star. So you can inscribe that in to your paper, and you've already done that actually on your poster, but it's good to have it organized in your chart as well. Okay, whew, that was a lot, right? So you got that drawn in. You got this. If you need to go back, you know where the video is. It's a separate video from the other ones, and you can fill it in. It is important so that we can make some comparisons. As a matter of fact, today your reflection is asking you, what are some commonalities between the 3 monotheistic religions? What are some things that they hold in common? So we talked about Abraham, we talked about the 2 sons, we talked about God coming down and proclaiming to Abraham, hey, there's one God and this is the one you should follow. And then that gets you started. I think you'll be able to think of 2 things, no problem. Maybe the fasting thing. Okay, so this is your chart. Going back to the chart. Thank you, boys and girls, for taking in all 3 religions. Right now, what you can work on is correcting your Christianity sheet. You're filling in your sheet for Christianity. You did that on Wednesday. And then today you can make sure you did it correctly. And then you can go on to your reading guide for Islam, fill that in, use your book, go to your Google Classroom, look for your chapter 5 book, fill it in. It's another way to hear it, see it, feel it, right? So we want to be able to understand these religions and understand the differences. So when we're talking about what's going on in the world, we have an idea. So thank you for doing that, and I really appreciate your time, and we will see you back soon. Actually, we'll be around, Mrs. Berry and I will be around tomorrow to see you in person in class. Thanks, guys.